Greetings, Patreon. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Look, it's Dan Torrey. It's time for a special edition of Geekvolution After Dark. And this is a thing that Dan really wanted to do.
Yeah.
I had no intention on making an After Dark this week, because there's no Eric. And we've never done an After Dark without Eric.
And he graciously let me be on this one. We asked his permission before.
We did, just be on the safe side.
Yeah, because this is kind of your and Eric's traditions. So.
Yeah, it always has been that. But Dan was bitching that he didn't get to say bitchin'. So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to fucking swear on camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and sometimes there's a reputation for the show that all we do is swear on the show, and it's just not fucking true.
It's a fucking outrage that people think that.
People think that that it's just an excuse for us to say swear words and drink beer, which I do on other videos anyway, so that's not really a big deal. And like just be like angry,
Yes.
And the thing is, it's just a lot of the topics that we wouldn't usually talk about on camera are more conducive to swearing, and inevitably end up being things that we're angry about. So Dan's
flow through you.
So Dan's got a couple topics,
yes,
and I have some topics, and we're gonna chat about our topics like we always do on the show. We want to say thanks as always to you guys, our patrons, for all your help in keeping this thing chugging along, for all your contributions on the channel. You guys are absolutely fantastic, and thank Dan for the fact that there is an extra After Dark, because it was Dan's idea.
Yeah.
And Dan, are you excited?
I'm very excited.
Are you excited to be here? Are you excited to be on the show where you can just kind of do whatever?
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing this with you and Eric when I came to visit you, so I was very excited to do it again.
It's more fun with Eric.
Yeah.
Than it is with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If only we could, have him as a floating head behind us here or something.
You weren't supposed to agree with me, though.
Oh.
Asshole. Okay, so we've got an hour on the clock. We're gonna get right into it.
Yeah.
Dan's gonna pick the first topic, and we're gonna find out what he wants to chat about. Hey, Dan.
Yes.
What would you like to talk about first, sir?
My first topic is, when will the Marvel Cinematic Universe have its first bomb, and what will facilitate that?
Boy, that's a good one.
Because the Empire has to fall eventually.
There are so many people that don't agree with you, and I have been saying not exactly that, but that there's reason to think that at some point that's going to happen.
Everything fails and comes to an end. Well, everything comes to an end eventually, So do you perceive?
But Dan, nothing ever truly ends.
No one's ever really.
And no one's ever really gone.
Yeah. So I think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not bomb-proof. I think it will eventually happen. But I wanted to chat about what you think will facilitate or lead up to that. Because Star Wars is, along with Marvel, my favorite thing. And everyone always thought Star Wars was bomb-proof, and then it happened with Star Wars recently.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Partly because of the production trouble with that movie, and also just because of the reception of The Last Jedi, and all the bad buzz about Solo when the movie came out. So I'm curious what you think. How will the Marvel brand be damaged enough that a bomb will happen?
And you're not saying what will be the thing that kills it beyond repair. You're saying
what's the first bomb?
What's just the movie that comes out? And by bomb, do we just mean like doesn't make its money back, or doesn't do anything as well as they usually do? Do you mean like a true bomb?
Like a true bomb, like Solo, a level bomb.
Okay, I have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I think it requires a sequel to a movie that did okay, but people didn't like very much.
Okay.
I think it requires either a new property that, I'm not saying this will happen, but like Shang-Chi or Eternals, where that movie comes out and people go see it because they trust the Marvel brand, and then they go, fuck this, I don't like this movie.
Yeah.
Or it's really polarizing.
Yeah.
Like a BVS or something, and it's like a 50-50 split, because even the mediocre Marvel movies, or the movies people think are mediocre, they've never been 50-50 split. It's always been more like a 70-30 kind of thing, right?
Yeah, there's always a pretty strong consensus among the Marvel Cinematic Universe fan base as to which ones are the good ones, which are the bad ones.
Yeah. But as far as the general public goes, even the ones that most of, even, Thor: The Dark World, it's still not 40 or 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Even Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp, some people don't like those movies, but they perform well enough, and they're not 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's going to take one that does at least 50% on Rotten Tomatoes or less, and has a sequel. And that sequel will be what bombs.
Yeah, it's interesting, because, But
I don't know what the property is.
I don't know what the property is either. I myself have found my interest waning in many of the Marvel Cinematic movies. Like, for example, you mentioned Ant-Man. Like, I thought the first one was bad, so I didn't go see the second one because I just don't care. It's gonna be interesting to see like when the like perception of the Marvel Cinematic Universe flips in the mind of the general public, because I think Marvel has made some mediocre to bad movies, but people still go to see them. Like, I wonder what it is that will turn people around on that. You know.
Well, and then that does become the question of what, like what taints the brand.
Yeah.
Where they don't, where it doesn't have the consumer confidence where because they made it, we have to go see it. And this has already happened to some degree with Pixar.
Oh, really?
You know, I mean, like Pixar. I don't know that they've had a straight up bomb, but they don't have the reputation they used to, where everything that touches gold.
Oh, really?
And Marvel, I would say, oh yeah, absolutely. Ever since Cars 2, really.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like and there are other movies that people dislike even more than that one at this point. But I mean, like,
interesting.
Like, I think maybe at some point that happens with Marvel, and I don't think they're there yet. I think Marvel is still, by and large, in the place that Pixar used to be, like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think maybe the difference with Pixar too is like 7 or 8 years ago. Like, did they even make a movie that was bad to mediocre 7 or 8 years ago?
No, they were pretty much all good. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's.
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Bugs Life, but beyond that,
Right, exactly. I mean, I feel like Marvel is in such a strange place because I feel like they ride on the goodwill of the great movies that they've made and the movies that have introduced characters people really love. And I feel like we're starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel a little bit as far as like characters we're going to be adapting and try to make people interested in. Like, Captain Marvel was supposed to be the linchpin of the Marvel Universe moving forward, and they had to... And from what I understand, there was like 2 cuts of Avengers Endgame, where one that featured Captain Marvel more and one that featured her less, and they released the one with less or something like that.
Yeah, I had read that too. A lot of people are saying that's just rumor territory. We don't know that for sure. I don't know what the source was on that.
Yeah.
I have no idea if that actually happened. That sounds legitimate. That sounds like not a bad idea. I might have done that. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's like movie making in a laboratory.
It is.
I wish they had just like made their movie rather than like gauging audience reaction and
well, what
like,
I'm saying is that's the way you do it if you're dumb and you put out Captain Marvel first, because I don't think they should have done that. I mean, I've always said that.
Sure.
Captain Marvel should have come later. They should have introduced her in Endgame. She should have been a big question mark, and been played kind of for mystery.
Yeah.
At the risk of still looking like a Deus Ex Machina, it doesn't matter. She still was, even though we had a movie and ostensibly knew who she was.
Yeah.
But like, because they didn't have Captain Marvel yet, they're like, we don't know what you know how people are going to react to her.
Yeah.
Like,
Which says a lot about the character, like the fact that Marvel wasn't sure if people would like the character.
Yeah.
Like, you would think if they had a real surefire hit on their hands and a charismatic actor and a great script, there would be no doubt as to whether or not people would like the character, you know?
But also, I mean, I think some of it is because of, this starts to get sticky and gets to be about things that aren't just storytelling, right? I think some of the reason they were gauging that was because of the like public perception of Brie Larson and how she keeps kind of seeming to put her foot in her mouth, and like, I don't know, let me just suggest this, because it seems like most of the people, most of the actors that she's worked with Marvel do not seem to like her.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the production around her liked her more if they wouldn't have played it like that. I wonder if it had more to do with the actress than it even did the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the public perception of Brie Larson was really changed by the interviews and stuff she gave outside of the insular comic book fan community. Like, I don't think the general public looks at that stuff as heavily as, like, people like we do. And being a fan of stuff, I didn't even, like, know a lot about, you know, what Brie Larson was saying and stuff like that. I heard that, you know, people didn't like her for some of the things she said or whatever, but I think, you know, Marvel is a mainstream movie property now, and they if they had confidence that the general public would like that character, it wouldn't matter what the insular comic book community thinks of Brie Larson and her, like, extraneous stuff she says outside the movies.
But
you know?
it would matter if also, like I said, people working there don't like her.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? Where it's like, okay, if she's not that popular, we don't have to put her everywhere like we had planned on doing.
Yeah, I mean...
That all feels real, it sounds real volatile. Like from what little I know about behind the scenes with all that, it seems
Yeah.
like Marvel's kind of wishing maybe they hadn't done that.
Yeah, I mean, who really knows? We'll never know exactly what happened behind the scenes. But I agree with you. I have seen some like interviews and stuff where the actors that have been around her don't seem to like her.
They don't
very much.
like her. Yeah.
But ultimately, like, it probably doesn't matter what any of those people think of her, other than Kevin Feige, and if he's turned around on her, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you perceive the possibility of one of these new characters they're putting out coming out the gate first bombing or something?
No,
or anything like that?
no, I don't.
No.
Because again, it's the fact that they've got consumer confidence still. That Endgame was so big. I mean, I have said, because I don't want to sound contradictory on this. I have said that I'm concerned moving forward that there might be people that are not as engaged because their favorite characters aren't there anymore, and we had a big conclusion
Yeah.
with Endgame. But at the same time, I don't know if because of that, Shang-Chi and Eternals don't do as big as they might have, say, in Phase 3,
Yeah.
but they're not going to bomb. There will still be enough people, of course, that will go see those because it's got the Marvel banner and because there's a reputation because of Guardians, where it's like, that was so popular,
Yeah.
where it's like, and Ant-Man has this to a degree too, but especially Guardians, where it's like, don't not see a movie just because you haven't heard of it, because it might be your new favorite thing and more exciting. There's almost more of a novelty for people because there's not expectations. And because it's made by a studio they trust. And again, that's what Pixar used to have, where it's like, because they didn't used to make a lot of sequels, and it would be like, that's a studio that is just making stuff you've never heard of, and we trust the quality of that studio. So I'm telling you, it's gonna take a sequel to a movie people didn't like.
So what if they make a bad movie, a straight up bad movie that is critically panned? Do you think that would be enough to hurt the brand that a one-off character coming after that would bomb?
It could hurt it to some degree, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like
It sounds like I don't know if you're fishing, but it sounds like you're assuming one of those movies won't do well.
no. I'm just asking questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because this is just a topic to explore. I mean, I don't know what I think about it either.
Sure.
I
would almost guarantee you, I would almost bet you money
Yeah.
that both Eternals and Shang-Chi each do at least as well as Ant-Man.
Oh, interesting.
At least as well. All that means is like 45, 50 million opening weekend. I don't know how much Eternals is costing to make, but like, they seem to be pretty good at gauging that and being kind of careful, where it's like, we're not going to throw as much money at one that doesn't immediately have the brand recognition behind it.
Yeah.
And may not do quite as well. They're not going to bomb. There's
Yeah.
no way they just don't make their money back.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just feel like the general public's perception of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and that brand is so different than mine. Like, I'm probably not
Right.
going to go see Eternals and Shang-Chi because I just don't care. And I'm kind of done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point. Like, they've written out the goodwill I had for it, and I'll go see, like, individual things here and there, but I certainly don't feel the need to go see everything like I did at one point during the run of it. You know
Yeah,
what
I
I
know
mean? Like, they're kind of out of goodwill for me, and they're out of most of the characters that I went to the movies to see in the first place. So, it's going to be interesting to see, like, how far they can ride this out once they run out of all that stuff, and like, could something bomb and eventually things come crashing down just because they're out of the stuff that people were initially going to see the movies for in the first place.
Well, and that's the thing I am concerned about,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah.
But, and I made a video a few weeks ago that was just a giant question mark, where I said, I've got concerns about the future and how long they can ride that out. I mean, everything you just said.
Yeah.
But these are different questions than, will the next phase bomb? It won't. Nothing in that next phase will bomb.
I mean, I don't think it necessarily is going to be the next phase. My question
Sure.
is just when and
Yeah.
how,
After 4.
Yeah.
There's no way it happens now, but certainly, and down the road, I mean, I don't know how long it will take. I tend to think, and this is what I said in that video, what the bigger question at large here for me was, how long are superheroes the majority of Hollywood's take? like, how long is that the big thing? And Marvel, as well as they've been doing, have the potential to ride this out even well past a superhero crash, is what I think. Because all they have to do is throw less money at their movies.
Yeah.
I think there will continue to be enough interest in them and enough goodwill, as you keep saying, with them, that, like, their movies will keep doing, like even if they're top, and I've said this before, even if they're top movies, just do Ant-Man numbers, all I gotta do is slash the budget by like 30 or 40 million and you're good, right? Like, you just adjust how much money you're expecting to make, because right now most of them are just like huge big budget movies.
I feel like
And if they make a few that are 40 or 50 million instead of 100 million to make, they're probably good for another couple of decades, honestly.
I feel like if you slash the budget of a Marvel movie by $30-40 million, you have to change it into a fundamentally different thing. And
You just have to make the right properties.
And
though.
if people are expecting the like Marvel Cinematic Universe formula that they like basically adhere to in every single one of their movies, and that changes all of a sudden, do you think people will still go?
It just depends on how good the movies are. Some of those cost more than they have to.
Sure.
I really think.
Sure.
And I think there are properties that they could put on screen that don't cost $100 million or $150 or $200 million to make.
That's probably true.
You could, they probably won't do this on the big screen. You could make a Daredevil movie for $50 million easily.
Sure.
It does not have to be a $100 million movie. You can do Iron Fist for $50 million. I don't know how much Shang-Chi is going to cost. That sounds like a $40 million movie to me. I'm sure it'll be a lot more than that, but you could make that. And like, I think if you do it right, and you don't make a really like CG special effects heavy movie, nobody notices the budget, because so much budget goes to actors and special effects in the first place.
Yeah. I just wonder if the Marvel movies change into something other than a special effects bonanza, you know what I mean? Like, people will stay as interested. But I guess it remains to be seen. Like, Because I look for things differently in movies than most people seem to, than the general public when they go to movies, so I just don't know what they're looking for and why it is that they go to see them completely, you know?
I see why you're saying that.
Yeah.
But the technology has gotten so good.
Yeah.
And, like, there's so much stuff on TV that doesn't look that far away from what's in movies.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. That I'm telling you, there's a lot. Like, all you gotta do is have a couple of less explosions. All you gotta do is have a couple of less... like CG pieces, and I'm telling you, people won't notice if the, if they're still relatively epic enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, right? Like, I would like them to sort of pare down a little bit and make the stakes and the stories a little bit smaller, a little bit more personal. That would be great.
Kinda just did that with Far From Home. Like,
yeah, I'm talking about like the big event movies that Marvel's going to be building to. You know what I mean? Like, if they their next event movie isn't on the same like bonanza level as Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, like,
it can't
will
be.
People care?
Well, and that's the big question.
Yeah.
But that's the big question mark. And I think it's also, you also have to look at what DC is doing right now.
Yeah.
It is also possible that moving forward, people get, in a weird way, almost more interested in the smaller, more personal stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's nowhere to go but inward now.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because it's hard to get much bigger than Endgame without going like straight up weird and cosmic.
Yeah.
Which is what Doctor Strange is gonna probably do anyway.
Yeah. And they have, even if they don't go as big and epic as Avengers Endgame in like, half the universe disappearing or whatever, like, they're still gonna have...
Well, like 65 characters.
Yeah, that too. I mean, in the future, they could still do a bonanza with like 65 characters if they bring the X... Like, you could do that with the X-Men alone, right?
Of course, yeah.
Well,
they didn't write out very many of their characters either. If you think about it. I mean, they still have about that many that they could throw in a movie if they wanted to write it that way.
Right, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? We got rid of like 3 main Avengers.
Yeah.
But there are a bunch of other characters that we killed off, sort of, and brought back, sort of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, Gamora's gone, but she's not gone, and Loki's gone, but he's not gone, and all the Disney Plus shows are gonna actually count and matter, and all those characters are on, are potentially going to be on the big screen again. That can happen.
Sure. Yeah. I just think it's an interesting...
So just to your point, you could do 65 characters again right now.
Yeah.
Like, really easily.
Sure. I mean, I would like them to not do that again anytime soon because I thought the 65 character thing in Avengers Endgame was really boring. But I'm just going to be interested to see which property it's going to be. I think that if Doctor Strange, this next one, is not good, that could be the first one, potentially. Like Doctor Strange 3, if they do another one. But then again, Marvel is kind of smart about pulling the plug on franchises when they don't perceive them doing well in the
See, that's a
future.
good point. So maybe they can avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they can dodge, like, a movie of theirs not doing well forever, but they can certainly prolong that possibility.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think it really is possible that a Marvel movie never bombs until somehow down the road we get to a place where somehow people are just moving on from superheroes for some other reason. You know what I mean? I don't know what that would be, but some external reason where it's just we're done with superheroes.
Yeah. And I'm kind of hoping that Hollywood moves on from superheroes relatively soon because I like to see more variety in films in general.
Well,
like,
same here. Yeah.
I mean, I love superheroes, obviously. That's why we're talking about this stuff. But like, I don't even have enough time to watch all the superhero things that are produced anymore.
Right.
You know, there's just so much stuff. I feel like the market is way, way too crowded.
And has been for a long time.
Yeah.
It's weird how long that has gone now.
Yeah.
You know, like it's weird because when we got inundated with superhero stuff on both film and television immediately after Arrow, you heard me on the channel for a couple of years say, look how spoiled we are as comic book fans.
Yeah.
Isn't it cool that we've got all these things we've always wanted? And you had a lot of great shows and a lot of things that got canceled prematurely, like Constantine and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that anymore because the majority of it's not great.
Yeah. I agree.
You know? And then there's also a lot of stuff that is really good that gets buried by everything else.
Yeah.
Like, you'd never think to go look at Legion, but it's great. You
Yeah.
should. It's awesome.
Same thing with the Tick too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a feeling that like the Marvel bomb will come maybe within the next like 10 years, you think? Or you think it'll be longer than that?
I think it'll be longer than that at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah. I think it may happen within the next 10 years. I don't really have any like
I think it'll be
reason
that
for
long
that
before there's
necessarily?
like a bubble burst. Again, I don't want to sound contradictory to stuff I've said before, because like I said, that video I made a few weeks ago was just a big question mark. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I said in that was I could see interest waning to the point where they don't make the money they have been, where you don't have $1 billion movies. You
Right.
only have $7 or $8 million, $100 million movies. You only have $500 or $600 million movies. But I'm telling you, I think Marvel will be able to coast for 2 decades.
Well, it makes you wonder too, right? Like if that's true, if the interest wanes and Marvel is able to coast with these movies with a little bit lower budgets, like you were suggesting, or they make just enough money and they're not like huge enough hits for Disney or whatever, do you think they'll do a scale back like they do with Star Wars, like only release 1 or 2 a year rather than 3?
That could happen too.
Yeah.
Another thing we got to keep in mind, and then I want to move on to another topic.
Sure.
Another thing you got to keep in mind is that, and I've always said this. This is really interesting. I think the Pixar connection is the easiest apt comparison to make because they're both studios. The difference between Star Wars and Marvel is that Star Wars is not a studio and Star Wars is a single franchise. So even though it's a shared universe in the sense that they can do the Star Wars story movies and that kind of thing, it's not perceived the same way that Marvel is. Like Marvel is looked at as both a universe, almost like a single franchise, but it's also looked at like a studio, like a Pixar, like a Disney, like a Warner Brothers. And if a Star Wars movie, whether it's, I mean, I think being a main movie was a bigger issue than a lot of people didn't like Last Jedi, and it didn't perform as well as they were hoping for.
Sure.
When any Star Wars movie doesn't do great, that has the potential to make people less interested in Star Wars as a thing.
Yeah.
When one Marvel franchise doesn't do well, there is the very real potential that it does not affect the rest of the brand. Because there's so many other franchises. They're all in the same universe, but not exactly, but in a similar way as if a Spider-Man book sucks, it doesn't mean X-Men stops selling.
Sure. Absolutely.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just because we taint a franchise doesn't necessarily mean that Marvel as a studio is in any danger at all.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting question.
This is not Marvel as a thing is not a franchise. It's franchises
Yeah.
that are all interconnected.
Yeah. I mean,
Star Wars is not that way.
I would say Marvel, the way that they make the movies now, they're all synergistic and are all building towards like a common plot at this point. So I kind of
Not right now, they're not.
Well, Spider-Man just had a scroll end cutscene at the end.
That doesn't mean we're moving to anything. It's just a status quo thing that we're setting up.
Like,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
that's what I mean. Like they're moving towards some sort of thing with the Skrulls in the future.
I don't know that for sure. That is probably what's going on, but I don't know
Yeah.
that for sure.
I mean, like,
All that's doing is bringing back characters that they just had recently in another movie. You see what I'm saying?
but they also showed Nick Fury on this like huge Skrull colony, and we don't know what's going on with him. Like,
Sure.
it seems pretty clear to me that they're building towards some kind of Skrull thing in the future. Like, I would be very surprised if Secret Invasion wasn't one of the things they're going to do in the near future. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of view them as, at this point, as all sort of, you know, even though they're separate franchises, I guess, like different movies and stuff, they're all a part of that Marvel shared plot that's moving forward. Like, you say all the time, like, it's hard to look at the movies, even in the individual franchises, as standalone films or sequels to their own franchises, because they all build the same narrative, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like, we certainly were doing that, and that is probably what we eventually will be doing again. But right now, it looks like a lot more standalone movies, which is what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that's what it is. I guess I'm just a little bit less sure that it's going to be as standalone as you think it is, but we both don't know.
But there's a
enough
difference
information at this
between
point.
being connected and building towards some big thing,
Yeah.
and that will probably happen down the road, I guess. But all I'm saying is, I don't think that I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I don't think that even in doing that, like it's not a big Thanos sort of thing yet. Like let me say let me suggest this.
Yeah.
If Ant-Man had completely bombed, does that affect Infinity War in any way?
It affects Endgame. Because they used Ant-Man to fix everything.
Does it affect people's interest in that movie? Does it make them one less dollar? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the point I'm making. And in that way, they are individual franchises.
But if Ant-Man bombed...
We're also
no one-
always moving towards stuff and telling individual stories in comics, too.
But if Ant-Man bombed,
Yeah?
and no one liked that movie, Marvel would clearly have to readjust their plans for Endgame and not include him as heavily in the plot of Avengers Endgame, just like people are speculating they did with Captain Marvel.
But what's really interesting about that is that Captain Marvel made $1 billion.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the big disconnect where I'm not sure what they do moving forward. Where, like, they had a movie that made a lot of money, but I cannot tell you how popular it was.
Yeah.
Those are almost separate things in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing to speculate about, because I feel like it's going to happen eventually. I think it may happen within the next 10 years, but I don't really have any solid ground. Like, at this point, not knowing what Phase 4 is going to look like and what they're building towards, like, I just don't know at this point. I feel like we could have a better gauge about this once the Phase 4 stuff starts coming out.
And see, the thing is, obviously, I have been more happy with these things recently than you have, but
Yeah.
I'm still very critical of it, and
Sure.
the general public is not.
Yeah.
Like, there's not the signs that I might have expected yet.
Yeah.
But again, the thing I keep saying is, and I don't know how right about it is, and a lot of our community seems to think that I'm completely off base on this.
Sure.
I don't know, and again, it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if after Endgame people are as interested, because that was such a finale, and because we got rid of the two biggest titans.
Right.
In the Avengers with that, and what I keep saying is, we cannot gauge it until we see how other movies do after Black Widow. I'm gonna say even after Black Widow, because that's not a movie that moves forward. We have another flashback movie,
Sure.
and a lot of people will probably see that just because it fits inside of a canon they're already interested in. You know what I mean?
Well, and Black Widow's a character that I like from the earlier Avengers films I really like, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see that.
Sure.
I'm excited about it.
But you said, but again, I'm talking about general public. Like,
Sure.
like you being a comic guy, having certain comic expectations, wanting to see certain things adapted
Yeah.
from comics and stuff like that, or not as happy with the direction and don't like the interconnectivity of it as much. The general public doesn't seem to have that
Yeah.
up through Far From Home.
Yeah.
But the big question mark is what happens after that.
And will the general public watch all these Disney Plus shows in order to keep up too? And then if these movies get to the point where those shows matter so much, the people that didn't subscribe to Disney Plus, are they going to be able to understand these movies moving forward? And if they can't, if that's the case, will people lose interest? I mean, I don't know. It all depends on the way these things shake out, I suppose.
I mean, that is potentially a concern. I'm less worried about that than a lot of other people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing that a lot. I think it's important to note
Yeah.
that the Disney Plus shows are all starring characters that were important before.
Sure.
And even though they're considered part of Phase 4, and they're the TV and the movies are certainly going to be talking to each other, I think there's going to be more of a divide between them.
Yeah.
Than people think there are, because the movies are going to be using primarily characters that are not those characters, and so eventually you might have a big event that ropes them all in together.
Yeah.
But it could be a thing where you don't actually have to watch those shows to appreciate what those characters are doing in those movies, or they end up being pretty ancillary.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Like, of course, like the WandaVision show, I'm sure will have major ramifications for that character, and she's in Doctor Strange 2, and that movie seems like it's gonna be setting up some stuff moving forward. So
I don't think it will.
okay.
I think. I mean, I guess I don't know, but something about the fact that that's set in another time period tells me that they're going to find a way to make sure that those shows aren't talking to each other.
But like,
I mean, that show and that movie aren't really talking to each other.
but I would hope that Wanda is a different. Like, she goes through a character arc in that show that changes who she is as a person by the time we get to Doctor Strange.
Does that
Yeah.
show before Doctor Strange comes out?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember either.
But regardless, like, if she becomes a big player in the Marvel Universe moving forward, like, I would hope that the TV show is not just, like, wheel spinning, you know?
I'm not expecting it to be wheel spinning.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I don't expect. I just think they are liable to write those shows in such a way, at least at first. I think down the road they might get stuck in like a Civil War place where, like the Russos did, they just throw their hands in the air and go, okay, you have to have seen everything. There's
Yeah.
nothing we can do to recap everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I think at first they're going to try to separate the things enough so it's like, okay, Wanda, I recognize her, I know who that is. She had an arc, it's maybe talked about a little bit, she's maybe moved forward some, but you don't necessarily really have to see that show to know what's going on. To understand what's going on in that movie.
Yeah. I suppose we'll see. And I'm hoping...
I'm just saying, I think there's a strategy in making all four of those shows about characters we know already.
Yeah.
And there is a definite strategy.
Well, and we
there.
do know that, like, Sam Wilson is going to be Captain America moving forward, and I assume he's going to be a member of the Avengers when they bring that team back, too, right?
We don't know that.
We don't.
What we know is that he puts on a Captain America suit in that show.
Yeah.
That's what we know.
Okay.
I don't think you can make the leap you're making.
That
You
he's,
see what I'm
gonna,
saying?
that he's going to be Captain America after the show, you
Yeah,
think?
you can't make that leap. We don't know
okay.
that. We know he puts on a suit. Could be in the first episode and he decides to take it off for some reason. He could decide that he's not
Sure.
worthy of it. He could not put it on until the very end of that show, and then is moving forward. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing we know is that he is putting that suit on in that show somewhere.
Sure.
That's all we know.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's
And
called...
that the mantle's been passed to him by Steve. That's why I was making that assumption.
No, I know, but just because but they could contrive some reason for him not to keep being Captain America. It's curious that the show is called Falcon and doesn't have Captain America in the title.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, at the very least, like, if we use Falcon as a character moving forward, I would hope you'd have to see that show like it's that integral, you know? But, I don't know.
Yeah, and you're right. If that is true, then there's the question of how many people are really going to do that, and
Sure.
and if we have asked people to do too much. Still don't know if that necessarily means that their movies start to bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to say.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
but I am predicting that Phase 4, nothing in Phase 4 will fully bomb.
Yeah.
You could have a movie that doesn't do as well as they're hoping.
Yeah. I think it just speaks to the strength of the Marvel brand in general with the general
Exactly.
public that we don't have a definitive answer to that
We
question.
don't. There's no telling.
Yeah.
It's really hard to read.
Yeah.
But because I realize that I'm sort of making almost opposing arguments. It's hard, right? Because again, we are looking at a universe with a story that is to some degree moving forward with everything to some degree, and then we have all these other franchises. If Shang-Chi doesn't look like a thing that looks exciting to people, I think a lot of people will go just because it's Marvel and they'll assume that they're going to like it even if it doesn't look great, but that could lose. I mean, it's not like everybody went to Ant-Man.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Ant-Man only did 45 opening weekend.
Right.
I mean, that tells you something.
That's true. Yeah.
But the brand, and I'm working on the Rewind right now, and I said this in the Rewind, that brand is so strong that an Ant-Man movie made money.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing. Yeah.
You know? Like, that's not a character you think even warranted being on film.
And
You know?
yeah, I don't know if he has still made a case to be warranted to be on film personally.
To some degree, I'm with you on that, but yeah, I find that movie really entertaining. But oh boy, I'm gonna tear it apart. I mean, it's got issues.
Yeah, it does.
Most assuredly.
Yeah.
And it's a film that I think does a really good job of duping its audience into thinking that it's smarter and that its characters have more clear motivations than they actually do. It's weird. It's a. I'm gonna say this in the Rewind. It's a mediocre script that's executed beautifully.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are throwing around maybe that the guy who directed those movies makes the Fantastic Four reboot, and initially I was kind of opposed to that, but maybe if he has a better script.
I think he is a serviceable director.
Yeah.
Like, I think that movie looks really good.
Yeah.
He would not have a creative vision on his own. I mean, you're absolutely right. He would have to have his own script. He's a working director.
Yeah.
And we need those.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Sure.
But he ain't a visionary.
No.
Most assuredly. Okay, hey Dan, we're gonna do some Mad Libs, man.
Oh.
That's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Do some Mad Libs. I've done this with Eric before.
Oh.
I want to make Dan play some Mad Libs. We're gonna do some dinosaur Mad Libs. Are you ready?
Yeah.
That topic could have just been a channel topic. We gotta shake things up here. Dan, I need the name of a person in a room.
Brie Larson, because she was in the movie The Room.
That's not where I thought you were gonna go with that. If we're doing a room thing, okay. Brie Larson. Okay. Dan, a place.
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. I'm gonna pretend like I spelled that right. Noun.
Noun? Teapot.
Teapot. Short and stout. Teapot. Okay, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Next?
Is this test difficult? Are you having a hard time with this test?
No. I'm ready.
I need. It's a pop quiz. I need an adjective, Dan.
An adjective?
Yes.
Horrendous.
Horrendous. Okay, Dan.
Yes.
I need a silly word.
Bungholio.
I need a verb ending in ing.
Shitting.
Well, it is after dark after all.
I had to throw it in at some
Just
point.
made like a really normal person first half an hour of the show, so we got adjective, Dan.
Let's see.
It's not an adjective, okay? It's the automatopoeia at best.
Good one. Terrible.
Clock's are ticking, Dan. Okay, terrible. Occupation.
Garbage man.
Garbage man. Garbage man. Okay, Dan.
Yes.
Letter of the alphabet.
X.
I don't think I've ever seen that in a Mad Lib. Letter of the alphabet. Part of the body.
Kneecap.
Kneecap. Knee Captain Logan. Adjective.
Adjective. Pretty.
Pretty. Verb.
Running.
Running. Okay. Adjective.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Okay, Dan. I need an animal.
Oh. Alpaca.
I like how you treated that like a curveball. Oh my god!
Oh my god!
A noun.
A noun?
Yes.
Is it a proper noun or just a regular noun?
Any kind of noun.
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze. That's pretty good. I like your choices, Dan. It's pretty good. Okay, I need 2 more adjectives.
Let's see. Horrifying.
Horrifying and
asshole.
that's not adjective.
Yeah, you're an asshole.
Yeah, that's a
Asshole.
noun.
Oh, okay. Do you? I guess so. You're right.
Yeah, I'm an asshole. That's not an adjective. I'm a fucking asshole would be see.
Fucking asshole.
Oh, well, okay. So fucking then is his adjective. Person in a room.
Tommy Wiseau.
I love how he bookended with room and the room. I should have seen that coming. Tommy Wiseau, who I still maintain is the closest real life equivalent to the Tick that we will ever have. Did you ever see my video on that?
Yes, I did.
I did a video comparing them,
Yeah.
and the parallels are astounding. All right, Dan, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. This Mad Libs is called Breaking News. Okay, so Brie Larson here, live from Nova Scotia, home of the dinosaur amusement park, Jurassic Teapot. We have just been alerted that one of the most horrendous dinosaurs of all time, the Bongholiosaurus, has escaped his pen and is currently shitting loose, because that makes sense, and undetected by park security. If you see this terrible dinosaur, be sure to repeat it to a nearby garbage man at once. The dinosaur is said to be wearing a half-chewed-off GPX tracking device around his kneecap, and no matter what you do, remain calm and pretty. If you scream, run, and flail around like a beautiful alpaca,
They are beautiful.
the dinosaur will see you at his... The dinosaur will see you as his Patrick Swayze, not his friend. If we
He
all
really likes Roadhouse.
If we all follow directions, it's a she, it's Jurassic Teapot. If we all follow directions and act horrifying, we're almost certain to make it out alive and fucking. Now back to you in the studio for sports, Tommy Wiseau. Yep, that was our Mad Libs.
Excellent.
Okay, Dan, what else did you want to talk about, man?
I wanted to talk about your general
pretty good
level
Mad
of
Libs.
excitement for
I thought you were going to call me out for something. I just want to talk to you about your bullshit stance.
No. I want to talk about your general level of excitement for the movies coming out now in general versus years past.
Oh boy, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's tough. It's roped up too much in work for me.
Yeah.
I have such a hard time separating those things.
Yeah. No, I bet.
Yeah. Just me personally.
I don't know if it's like rose-tinted glasses or whatever, but like I just feel not all that excited about going to the movie theater
I
to
can
see
tell.
stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It's like a lot of the stuff that comes out seems like really safe, calculated, almost cynical, exploitations of intellectual property rather than people just like someone with a vision making a film,
And there's a lot less of that. I mean, there's still a lot of trash, but there's a lot less of that kind of thing happening on streaming sites where movies are being made that aren't going to the movie theater. And that's where the really artistic, interesting stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Which I don't have time to see.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I don't know. I just the only stuff I really go to see in the movie theater anymore are when it's whenever they put out a Star Wars or a Marvel thing that I'm interested in. I don't have time or money to see all the Marvel stuff anymore, so I have to be choosy now.
Right.
Because it used to be feasible because they would put out 1 or 2 movies a year. Now they put out like what 3?
It's 3.
Yeah. I just
or it has been 3.
Yeah. I think that's too many just for me personally. Like, of course, the market seems to support that, so good on them for doing that. But
Sure.
yeah, like those are the only 2 things that get me excited about going to the movies anymore. I like anything DC puts out. I'm excited for the next Wonder Woman movie, but barring that, like in the immediate future, I'm not excited for really anything they're doing. The Joker I'm excited about. That's like my number 1 comic book movie I'm excited for in general because it looks like somebody's vision. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it looks like that those people like got the budget and the script and they were allowed to do what they wanted to. So that really excites me, and I'm really happy to support that, even if it's doesn't come out exactly the way I would like necessarily. But yeah, like I was reminded of this when we were sitting in Spider-Man Far From Home at the beginning, and like the trailer for that Charlie's Angels reboot came on, and I was like, man, that looks like the least likely candidate for something I'd ever see ever.
Right.
Movies
aren't made for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
They're not. Movies are getting the. Again, I don't want to sound prudish when I say this, but they're going after least common denominator, like you said, to stay in business.
Yeah.
The smartest move to make right now would be to make more smaller budget pictures that are less risky and just make more of them instead of putting all your eggs in a big budget basket.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's hard to say if any of those things could compete with the few huge movies that people actually see. The average person doesn't go to more than 1 or 2 or 3 movies a year.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, I wonder what the statistics on that are.
Yeah.
We should look into that at some point.
I think what we're seeing and what's frustrating you
Yeah.
is that you're seeing the death of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's going on.
I mean, I don't want to say that there's nothing creative going on that's released in the movie theater ever.
No, certainly not.
I think
But
A24 as a production company puts out a lot of great films I really enjoy, like The Witch and Hereditary. I really liked. I haven't seen Midsommar yet, but I want to see that too.
But none of those kinds of movies are things that need a movie theater to support them.
That's true.
Eventually, that kind of thing is just going to go to streaming television.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't need the movie theater.
It's true. So I don't know. I remember maybe it's just that
But I don't get as excited as I used to.
Yeah,
for the most part.
And maybe it's just that when I was younger, I was the target demographic for those movies, so they spoke to me more.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just getting too old. And
That's part of it.
And they don't make a lot of movies for adults anymore.
Yeah.
Which is sad. But I don't know. When I feel like when I was in high school or whatever, me and my friends would go to the movies almost every week. That was something we loved to do. And there was a lot of movies we were excited to see. It wasn't that we'd look at the newspaper or the website and try to find a time to go see a movie, and there was always something at least one of us was interested in seeing,
And it wasn't yet. I mean, this was already becoming a problem, but it wasn't yet all franchise reboot.
Yeah,
it wasn't
exactly.
yet all stuff you've heard of.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, and it's interesting to me that the Anthony Mackie, the guy that plays Falcon, actually talked about this in an interview relatively recently.
I've talked about that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. He said the only movies we make now are for 16-year-olds, and it stinks for actors, or it sucks for actors. I don't know why I'm censoring myself because we're on this show. It sucks for actors because there's not anyone that's a bona fide movie star anymore. You have the remnants of the old guard, like Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, those kind of people, and that's about it. But the Falcon is the star now, and the characters and the studios almost don't even need the actors to drive people's interest in movies anymore, which I'm of 2 minds about, because I also don't like just star vehicle pieces most of the time, Like, I would rather them, like, you know, the actor become the character and not it just be like a star vehicle for Tom Cruise or something like that, you know?
But Mackie is right when he says we don't have movie stars anymore, and that is kind of sad. Like,
Yeah.
you're right about star vehicles, but we also had stars that were versatile and
Absolutely.
disappeared in roles. And
Absolutely.
so people would go see somebody because they wanted, or a movie, because they wanted to see everything in an actor's catalog.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that the actor was playing the same character every time. So,
Right.
like, movie stars were not all Schwarzenegger.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's interesting because like a lot of the films that I go back that I watch when I have free time are things that were made that were really popular, like for adults and got like critical acclaim, made a lot of money. But those were like in the 70s, 60s, 80s, like in decades past, even in the 90s sometimes. The early 2000s I think has some really good like adult movies that came out in the theater, but that I don't know, like the theater has kind of become an experience just for like big spectacle movies, and I'm kind of getting bored with them.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a natural evolution in a way.
Sure.
And it's unfortunate, and I don't like it, but technology is somewhat to blame.
Yeah.
So like we can blame the way Hollywood is handling this, where we're not greenlighting a lot of new ideas to go to the theater. We're not interested in pushing the envelopes of like sophistication and storytelling because we just want to make our money back, and we just want to do well enough to make the next film.
Right.
But that's in some ways a natural byproduct of people more and more not feeling the need to leave their house. You got like people have really great home theaters now,
Yeah.
and Anthony Mackie talked about that too.
Yeah,
that was in that panel he
You're
did,
right, you're right.
where he's like, "Why would I go to the theater? Like these things are really affordable now.
They are.
And you can get a massive TV, you can get really great surround sound. It's not as expensive.
Well,
as it
you
was
have a very
once.
nice setup in your house with a projector and everything. You basically have a makeshift movie theater in your living room at this point.
Yeah.
It's interesting to
And
me
I
too.
don't go to everything anymore either. But
Yeah.
it's not just because I can watch it at home. For me, it's because I tried to go every week for a while, and it made me brain numb.
Really?
It made me feel like my standards were slipping.
Yeah.
Because so much of what I was seeing wasn't good.
Yeah.
And there was good trash, and I enjoy good trash.
Yeah.
But I don't want everything I'm seeing to be either good or bad trash.
Sure. And it makes me wonder, like, this phenomenon, how it's, like, Anthony Mackie mentioned the thing about movie stars. It makes me wonder, like, what's going to happen to the idea of the auteur director, too.
Yeah.
Like, think about, like, the auteur directors that are around now. I mean, like, Scorsese's still working, Spielberg's still working, Quentin Tarantino's still working. No, I think, like, Nolan is the most recent person that people, like, is acclaimed as a director that people follow. But, like, since Nolan, who else can you think of that like has that level of notoriety and is an auteur that people go to see their movies just based on the name of the director alone?
Sure.
Like I don't know that I don't know that that's happening even with directors anymore either.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not happening on film. I mean, it's not happening in movie theaters.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we have to change the definition.
Yeah.
Movies and television are the same thing now.
Yeah.
They just are. And you and I are still thinking about it separated.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I do this too. Like, I want movies to be movies. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But first of all, you got to keep in mind that it's not. I guess it's not fair to say that we don't have like 2.5, 3 hour movies being made for other platforms, because that is happening. But at the same time, you've also got 10, 12 hour movies that we're just calling TV shows, but they're not. They're movies. They're just really long movies.
Yeah.
All of the auteurs right now are showrunners. They're all TV showrunners.
Okay. So I'm just not as well versed in the TV world as you are. Like,
I mean, I'm not super well versed either because I'm not watching stuff.
I'm just curious, like, what showrunners are like auteurs that people follow based on just the name alone? Because I just don't have time to watch a lot of TV, so I don't know. You know
Yeah,
what
I mean, your Whedons and your people like that.
Okay, but even but Whedon's even a member of like the old guard that's been showrunning for years, and he gained his notoriety a long time ago.
Sure.
You know, I'm talking about like Anthony Mackie's observation of this phenomenon of actors that are coming up now not being able to develop into movie stars. And I wonder if the same thing is happening with directors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I think a lot of the people that are making shows right now are people that have been making shows a long time. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I think that's gonna keep happening, is what I'm saying.
So yeah, and my question.
I'm saying, like, I think there are some, and I just can't think of them because I'm not watching a lot right now.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Like, I'm out of the loop on some of that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like if there was an auteur showrunner out there that was so good that like they were considered on the level, they were going to be considered on the same level as like a Nolan,
But
we would have heard of them, don't you think?
Streaming hasn't lasted long enough yet. I mean, I think most of the people that are there have probably only made one or two shows. Like, I think that's happening. I think we just gotta give it some time.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they take longer to make, because they're on longer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you make something that's like a cultural phenomenon, like people are gonna know you're like I know the name of the people that made Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers.
Yeah.
You know. They haven't made anything past Stranger Things, but like
Because it's still on.
they have like really goodwill with people, and I wouldn't be surprised if moving forward maybe that happens with
They
them.
keep moving on.
Maybe.
The Breaking Bad guy.
Oh, what's his name again?
It's not coming to me. That's why I said Breaking Bad guy.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's potentially like that.
Sure.
It's just he's still in that universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just think that like the format change is changing everything.
yeah.
Like you can't even hardly think about it in the same terms as we used to.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I don't know. I just think that it doesn't seem to me like the people that are behind the scenes making these things are really the focus of them anymore. It's on the brand, the characters involved in the movie rather than the creative integrity of the people behind the scenes, so people don't notice them as much. You know
You're
what I
right. Right now,
Yeah.
with movies in the big screen.
Yeah,
Because
and that was the topic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
the point I'm trying to make is I think the auteurs are gonna keep popping up. They're just not gonna be making movies for the big screen
Yeah.
because those aren't gonna sell on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, like, Quentin Tarantino has a reputation as an auteur, and his movies always do well because
So that's because he's been making them for so long.
right, and I wonder...
Somebody else can't come in right now and compete like that, like he can with big genre stuff
Yeah,
in the movie theater. But I'm saying down the road, this is going to be a moot point.
yeah.
Like, eventually we're going to get to a point where movie theaters are going to die. We've
Yeah.
been talking about this a lot on the channel lately.
Yeah,
And it's just a format shift.
yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see, for sure.
Like, I don't think you're gonna. I don't think you're ever gonna see a point where, because I don't know. In some ways, the format shift is creating a lot more like creativity and some new properties and stuff than we've had in a long time. I mean, like a lot of people called what we had on television a new golden age of television a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that banded around a little bit less right now, and I think it's because a lot of shows didn't stay good.
Yeah.
And that's been a big problem.
Or
What
really
we-
great shows ended, too.
Yeah, but more stuff not staying good. Because
Sure.
when you look at Netflix right now, they have kept a lot of shows on that are not anything like as good as they were when they started, and are almost like not the same show. And they've just kind of drug them into the ground. I mean, that's a mistake. And you'd think that they would have been smarter to not make some of the same mistakes like that
Yeah.
that broadcast did. I think moving forward, what we need to see happen is a lot more miniseries.
Yeah.
There's a lot more
I
actual
would like that.
8-10 episode movies.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
And it's not like I don't still want movies,
Yeah.
but it becomes the difference between books and short stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And it can just all be stuff that you stream directly into your house. You don't have to leave it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, for sure. Yeah. Did you want to go to your next topic?
Sure, we don't have a lot of time left.
Oh, okay.
Dan, you and I were talking about this the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought we should bring it up here because I would never talk about this on the main channel.
Yeah.
you've looked at a lot more of this kind of stuff than I have.
Okay.
But I wanted to talk about professional reviewers on YouTube. And whether or not, and again, I don't look at a lot of that stuff, but I hear people complain about it all the time.
Yeah.
I hear people talk constantly about fakeness.
Yeah.
About like fake fans, people who are paid to kind of pretend to be fans, or paid to, like, you know, I guess paid to be fans.
Yeah.
If you pay to be a fan, are you really a fan? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and people, like, you know, acting like they're more professionals than they are, acting kind of pretentious about it. I hear a lot of complaints about that.
Yeah, I think
And I'm not talking about people who do what I do, who like are like basically amateur critics that do this for a living.
Yeah.
I'm talking about I'm talking about like Collider and places like that have a
website business kind of
that,
thing.
yes, that
Yeah.
are a big company.
Yeah.
I don't know how big Collider is, but it's a relatively bigger
I mean,
company.
they're one of the bigger movie channels on YouTube for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got companies like that hire people, like a radio station hires DJs.
Yeah. Yeah.
To come in and talk about this stuff, rather than individual people that say come together to form a network or just work on their own, like I
Right.
do, that kind of thing.
Right. I think the professional reviewing scene on YouTube, as far as like the Collider people go, that seems to me to work similar to the way the news media in the United States works, where like they're very trepidatious about challenging politicians, because if they do too much, they lose their access to those people, and then their ratings drop. So like if you, for example, like think about like what the incentive structure is here, right? Like you're Collider. You want to have your movie review out as soon as possible. Therefore, you need to be invited to the premiere of the movie.
Yeah.
And to be invited to the premiere of the movie,
They gotta like you.
they have to like you. And if you are too critical of the movie that the company puts out, it's very likely they may not invite you back to the premiere again. You know?
Yeah.
So it's I feel like for those people, it's probably a very tough line to walk.
It's a complete catch-22.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't sympathize with those people. You know, like it's probably a really tough call. Like, they have to put food on the table and feed their families, I would assume. You know, and like this is what they are. I'm sure that like all of these people started from a genuine place of passion about movies, and they love them. I don't doubt their initial like passion and want to talk about movies or whatever. You know.
Do you not think anybody is ever hired outside of that?
I think that people, with specifically the Collider people and some of the other similar channels, people get hired by them because they like movies, and then they'll get thrown into like, you know, like, oh, the Star Wars podcast, and they don't know anything about Star Wars, but they have to like feign that they're a fan of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, famously, newspapers have always been like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Roger Ebert famously was thrown in as a movie reviewer because they needed one.
Right.
He wasn't a movie reviewer.
Yeah.
He was a journalist.
Yeah.
He wasn't even an opinion columnist. I mean, like, he went out and got stories. That's what he did.
Yeah. And I mean, I
And,
don't.
and he liked movies, and luckily he knew his stuff pretty well, and he came to really know his stuff as time went on.
Yeah.
But that ended up just being a good fit. But he just as easily could have been like, you know, I don't know anything about movies, but I'll try. And
Yeah.
it would have been terrible.
And I don't blame these people for necessarily having a learning curve, but I think the fakeness comes from the fact that the Collider business model presents itself as like, we are the authority on all things movies, and
Yeah.
they the cracks are so clear, especially when they start like shilling products in the middle of the video. They're tied into like for example, they did an entire episode.
That happens?
They did an entire episode when Solo came out, advertising the menu that Denny's did for Solo in the Denny's. They were all eating all the Denny's menu items. They were trying to sell the cups to people, talking about Star Wars and stuff. And it's like, this is so clearly an advertisement for a movie tie-in. You know, like that's exactly what it was.
See, it sounds to me like kind of a giant waste of time.
Yeah,
I mean,
mean,
it sounds awful, but I don't understand what then is the point of listening to people who can't be remotely objective. And by objective, I just mean saying what your own opinion is, not unfettered by someone telling you what you have to present.
Well, it's interesting, right? Like, me and you think it's a waste of time. I tend to agree with you. But there are a lot of people out there that want to hear their opinions confirmed by other people, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
like
validation.
exactly. So like you watch, for example, like you watch MSNBC or Fox News. If you watch Fox News, you watch it because you're a Republican because you want to hear your opinion strengthened and people preaching to the choir. And the same thing with MSNBC with liberal people.
When I was about to say, it's a lot like church, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or like church can be.
So like the Collider like business model seems to be like we're excited about everything that Hollywood produces, almost everything. You know, I mean they'll voice when they're not as excited about something or whatever, but like they're always willing to give something the benefit of the doubt, even if it looks like objectively terrible, because like their whole vibe is like, oh, we don't want to be too toxic or too negative or whatever, and like
And then when they see it, they're pulling punches.
yeah, and like my thing is, I think we should be harshly critical of Hollywood if we want movies to be better.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't think you should be toxic and like do what some people did with like when The Last Jedi came out, like harass the actors or whatever. That's totally wrong. But like criticize the movies that you don't like and share your opinions, because if Hollywood, if all Hollywood hears all the time is, oh, like the movie was great, the movie was great, the movie was great, like that they're going to keep producing those same things. And I personally would like to see Hollywood produce different things, so I am not as willing to go along with everything they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They seem to have the exact opposite attitude, and that's what bothers me about them. You know, not that they have different opinions than me, just that they're not as willing to share their unfettered real opinions with people, and I don't like unauthentic people, I guess.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean?
And like I said, I just don't know what the point is, at least for me, to watch a thing like that.
Yeah.
When I can imagine that when the camera gets shut off, they're saying something completely different
Right.
than what they were saying while it was rolling. You know, it's sort of like money in like big business money in politics.
Exactly.
It's like get it out, and then you can work on whatever it is you think is important in trying to improve the country.
Yeah.
These are not on the same level of importance.
Oh, of course not.
But as far as there's a pretty clear parallel there.
Absolutely.
So when you're reviewing a movie and you're being paid by somebody who has a vested interest in it performing, your credibility is nil. It's not a review anymore. It's an advertisement.
Exactly.
It's an advertisement. Just make it an advertisement.
Right.
And that's the difference. I don't think they should pretend like they're reviews. I think they should simply talk for 15 minutes on air about how great the thing they were paid to promote was.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why we pull punches and pretend like we're being critical. That's dumb. But I guess at the same time I do kind of get it, because as you say, people look for validation. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if they can be duped into thinking that these people are being kind of critical, then it's like, oh look, I agree with thinking people that agree with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Like, I've even noticed that the Collider people like get in bed with like the movie theater chain, specifically AMC. I've been at AMC before, and one of their hosts does an advertisement for like this like movie box office fantasy league thing that like no one would
does.
ever do.
Yeah, nobody does that.
Like never. That is like such an astroturfy kind of idea to get people excited about movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because think about it, right? Like, if you have a vested interest in, like, oh, I'm in a fantasy movie league with my friends, and I think Avengers Endgame is going to be the top movie, like, whatever, like, you're going to go see it many times so that you contribute to your fantasy league winning. Maybe that's the idea. I don't know. But it's just so strange to me. At the same time, I kind of understand from their perspective, right? Like, you're in a very unique situation that you can make the Geekvolution thing work for you, and Sarah is the top earner in your family. So, like, you guys are definitely, like, great with what you're doing. These people, that's all they have such a niche market that it's probably very hard for them to make money without, like, enough to, like, support themselves without getting into bed with all these companies,
Yeah, of
you know?
course. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I sympathize with their position. I wouldn't do that personally, but if I was in a position where, like, the only thing I really wanted to do with my life was talk about movies, and I needed it to be, like, extremely lucrative, you know?
Well, here's the thing. I can relate to this to a small degree.
Sure.
In that at one time, I'll tell you guys this, it's been a lot of years now.
Yeah.
I've never talked about this.
Yeah.
At one time, I worked for a comic shop.
Yeah.
And the guy that I worked for wanted me to put his, to advertise his store in the videos. And we did some of that.
Yeah.
And if I reviewed new comics that came out, and I did them in his store, he didn't want me to say anything bad about them.
Oh, interesting.
And essentially, I was making advertisements for comics I liked,
Yeah.
and not actually critical reviews. And if you go back and look at those videos, I didn't present them as critical reviews as much as I presented them as here are the things I think are good you should watch this week, or you should read this week. Because, like, I wasn't going to pull punches and say that something I didn't like was good. Like, I just could not bring myself to do that. So what I did was, I read a number of books that came out that week. I had keys to the store. I would go late at night. I would read them the day before they actually came out. I was there till 3 a.m. I did it every week.
Yeah.
And it was grueling.
Yeah,
and not a lot of people watched those videos.
Yeah.
And I would do like a top 3, top 4 in different categories.
I remember when you used to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I had to do it that way instead of just reviewing comics is I couldn't say anything negative. So I made it a top 3 or 4 list.
Yeah. So you were trapped in that incentive structure that they're probably trapped in at this point.
That's exactly right, and I didn't like it.
And made you uncomfortable.
And I don't think I would ever do it again.
Yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't do what they're doing where I pretend like it's critical.
Yeah.
It really bugs me.
Yeah. And I think, like...
And, like, I'm with you. They're between a rock and a hard place, but presented as something else.
Yeah.
Say, if every movie is good, I mean, if I don't know, figure out a way, and I don't know if they can do this. I guess they can. Figure out a way to only talk about things that you liked.
Yeah.
As opposed to pulling punches.
Well, and the thing that
But if you're being paid to say this was good, then I don't know how you do that.
I agree with you that I think they shouldn't masquerade it as something else. Like, for example, I have no problem with Marvel and Lucasfilm both produce a show that's kind of like the officially sanctioned Star Wars and Marvel show. I don't know if you've ever watched like This Week in Marvel, that thing that Lorraine Sink does on their YouTube
I've
channel.
heard of that, but
it's not great because it's just an advertisement for Marvel stuff.
Sure.
But they're very clear about what it is. Like, she's like, I work for Marvel. Marvel's putting out these things. You should be excited about them because Marvel's great.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars show, the Lucasfilm produced one, does the same thing.
And also, that's a news thing before it's a review thing.
Yeah, true.
Where
true.
it's like solicitations.
True.
Solicitation is also not going to be critical. It's not like, this is coming out, but it probably sucks.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So,
like, I don't have a problem with that, especially if you know where you stand with them.
They do give their opinions on stuff sometimes, but, like, it's very clear, like, the people on the Marvel show are not going to have negative opinions about Marvel's products because it's their boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like the Collider people and similar people to them, it's just one degree of separation than that, and it's kind of the same thing, you know. And I think to a lot of people that don't understand how all this works, it's sort of like unobvious, I guess. You know, like they just like, oh, these people talk about movies a lot, and they have positive opinions, you know.
Well, Dan, I hate to cut things off.
Yeah, sure.
But we have no space left on the SD card.
Okay.
So we're going to have to bid everybody farewell. We only got through a couple subjects, but it was fun.
It was a good discussion.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. It was a really good discussion.
Didn't turn into a crazy show. You never know where these are going to go.
Yeah, we didn't fucking swear that much.
We really didn't. No.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you're in more of a contemplative mood or whatever. So.
Yeah. The topics that we both brought to the table, I thought were good ones.
Well, good. Well, thank you. I liked your topics, too.
Oh, thank you.
And I just did a silly Mad Libs because I think those are fun.
They are fun.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Bye.